Okay, so I took a second and I wrote these notes down for you guys. Hopefully, you've already watched the video by this point, but I'm just gonna walk through it with you, show you how to do it. So, if you look over here though on my little phone screen over here, all right, each form of an equation is good for something. We were talking about quadratics. Standard form is best to find the y-intercept because it's just sticking out right there. It's where C is. Whatever number that is, that's the y-intercept. So 0 and that number every time. If you're in vertex form, okay, uh, that's great for finding the vertex. That's why they call it vertex form. The K stays the same, but whatever number is the H, it's kind of the opposite of whatever H is. That's why I put that negative. So like if you saw -4, then this would just be regular 4. But I'll show you that as well. Actually, I should probably maybe erase that, and then you'll know what I'm talking about. Okay. And then finally, in factored form, that's great for finding the x-intercepts, the zeros. Okay, because really, it's whatever the opposite of those two numbers are, and you should know that back from factoring. But so I'll go through a few of these with you so you can see what I'm talking about. All right, the function m is given in three equivalent forms. Which form most quickly reveals the y-intercept? Well, we already said standard form reveals the y-intercept fastest. So that's going to have to be B. That's the one that's in standard form. And then it asks us what is the y-intercept, and we're going to say, well, it's just sticking out right at us, -54. So -54, and that should be good enough. Sure is. Sure is. Let's do another one. Which form most quickly reveals the zeros or roots of the function? So actually, I might as well add that in here. Zeros, aka x-intercepts, aka roots of a function. Okay. So we want the one that looks like someone's already done the factoring for us. That would be A right up here. Now, remember, if you remember factoring, you'd say if you wanted to find out what the x-intercepts were, you'd say, all right, well, x plus 2 equals 0, and you do x minus 4 equals 0. And by the time you're done with that, you end up getting that x equals -2 and x equals a positive 4, right? Because you just subtract 2 from both sides, and this one you just added 4 to both sides. So when they ask write one of the zeros, well, it really doesn't matter which one we choose. So let's just choose 4 because it's positive. But it really doesn't matter. We also could have chose -2. And we're good. Totally good. Let's do another one. Which form most quickly reveals the vertex? We go back and look at our notes. We say, all right, well, remember, vertex form is the one that has our coefficient and then the x minus some number squared plus some number on the outside. So that's going to have to be A in this problem. That'll have to be A. And then what is the vertex? Remember what I told you? The vertex is the opposite of what you see in the parentheses, but it's exactly what you see outside of the parentheses. So if you see x minus 8, we're going to do positive 8. And on the outside, we see -8. So we're going to go ahead and keep that -8. Remember, it's the opposite of what you see in the parentheses, but out of the parentheses, it's exactly what you see. And we should be okay, and we are. We are. Excellent. Excellent. So that's pretty much all I gave you. If you have any questions about that, let me know. Let me try this other one. All right. I said the graph. I gave you the assignment graphing parabolas in all forms. So remember what this form is. This is factored form, so it's good for showing us the x-intercepts, the zeros or the roots. So I know that this thing is going to intercept the x-axis at +6 and at -2. I know this. I know this to be true. So I can put one of my dots. Now this dot is for my vertex, and this dot is for one of my x-intercepts. So I can go ahead and put one on 2, but now I need to move this so that, see, the other one's on 4. I need to move it so that the other one's on 6. So there we go. So now the only question is, where should this dot be? Well, before we do that, look at the beginning. You see how there's a negative sign there? That means this thing is flipped the other way, right? Remember, we have done this, so this part's review. So let me go ahead and put this up here. So now my parabola is opening down. But I still have this issue. I need to know how high this thing goes because I do not know. So there's actually something that can help you with that. And I'm going to write it down for you. It'll help you find your vertex. Your vertex is at the x coordinate, which is what we need. We actually know the x coordinate and the y coordinate. Actually, hold on a second. So what's nice, I forget what I was saying, but so now all we have to do, since we know what the x's are, we also know where this line of symmetry is. Okay, so we know the x value for this thing. We want to, it's 4. So what we want to know is when x is 4, what does y have to be? Because I'm not sure how high or low this should go. See, notice how it stays at 2 and 6, but I'm not sure how high or low it should be. So I'm going to go ahead and plug in 4 because I know that 4 is the number right in between 6 and 2. So it has to be where our line of symmetry is. So we're going to say f of 4 equals negative 4 minus 2 times 4 minus 6. And see, 4 minus 2 is 2, and 4 minus 6 is negative 2. And we've got that negative on the outside there. And so, see, 2 times negative 2 is negative 4, but negative 4 is actually a positive 4. And we knew it was going to be positive anyway because it has to open downward, so we know this dot is going to be somewhere up here. So they say it should be at 4, and that should work out really well for us. And sweet, we're done with that one. I'll do another one, though, because I'm sure you might not have caught it the first time. Okay, let's do this. This time they give it to us in standard form. Remember, standard form is good for showing us the y-intercept, all right? One more time, standard form is good for showing us the y-intercept. Notice you don't see anything over here, so you get to think of that y, I wish I could write on here. You get to think of that y-intercept as plus 0. All right, you get to think of that as plus 0. So the y-intercept is going to be at 0. So as I wait for this screen to catch up, I know I'm going to have this thing going through 0 somewhere. So how do I figure out the rest? Well, you can still find your axis of symmetry, and that should take care of the rest. If you want to find your axis of symmetry, and once again, this is review, but if you've forgotten it, that's okay. That's why I'm going over it with you. The x coordinate of your axis of symmetry is at negative b over 2a. And that means if I have standard form, ax squared plus bx plus c, I'm just saying that this here is the a and this here is the b. So when I go ahead and fill this in, we're going to say, well, let's see, look at our equation. Our equation is negative 1/5 x squared plus 2x plus 0 from our equation. So I would say negative 2 on top, because 2 is where b was. And on the bottom, it's 2 times a, and that's times negative 1/5. If you don't like this kind of math, by all means, you can just do it in a calculator. If not, then you're going to have to go through the steps. So you have negative 2 on top, and when I multiply those together, I have negative 2/5. And then when you divide something like this, you don't ever divide fractions, you multiply by the reciprocal, right? So we're going to say negative 2 times negative 5 over 2, because we flipped it stuff. Flip. You feel what I'm saying? All right, so I go multiply that out. That's going to be 10 over 2. So I just multiply straight across. That's 2 over 1. So, and that gives me 5. 5. So my x coordinate is 5. So that changes things for me. So I'm actually going to be over here. Now, but like before, I don't know how high or how low to take it. Okay, so I've got a y-intercept at 0. I'm at 5 for my x coordinate. I still need to figure out where the y coordinate of this vertex is. So far I know the vertex is at the point 5 something. I need to figure out this something. So I'm just going to plug 5 in to the equation. So we're going to have -1/5 times 5 squared plus 2 times that 5 plus nothing because there's nothing else over there. Okay, remember we do the exponents first. That's 25. So that would be 25 times -1/5. So that would be -5 plus 2 times 5 is 10 plus a whole bunch of nothing. So that's really just going to be 5 again. So I should really be at the point 5 and 5. Oh, way up here? Does that make sense? Of course it does, because the leading coefficient is actually negative. So I should have been thinking this is going to be upside down this whole time. That's what I should have been thinking. So this vertex is at the point 5 and 5. The y-intercept is at 0. Make sure we got that right. And we're good. So let's click it and good to go. So if you guys need help walking through this or anything like that, let me know. I'm doing a live meet tomorrow for you guys at 1 o'clock. We're down to our last couple of weeks here, so let's get her done.